Over the last decade, a lot of television shows have undergone massive creative changes. The streaming era ushered in not only a more cinematic style of storytelling and budget, allowing for shows to appear bigger, but also completely changed the visual styles of said television shows, for better or worse. While most shows from the pre-streaming era have not survived, the new ones fail to spark the same excitement in me visually. I'm generalizing, so please don't get mad at me, but overall, most shows nowadays just look flat in terms of the lighting. This is not an opinion that's never been uttered online, as every 3 to 5 business days, Twitter loves to remind me that yes, everything looks gray, desaturated, and flat now. As oversaturated as this conversation has become, I haven't seen too many people talk about it as it relates to Dexter, particularly the Dexter reboots. Also, when I say that the visuals of many TV shows have gotten worse over the years, I'm solely talking about the lighting and use of color. While I'd love to talk about the differences in camera quality, I'm gonna try my best to shy away from doing that because I really want to stay focused on the main issue here, and that is the lighting. I could just be like, Dexter stopped using film cameras and 2000s digital cameras and switched to the ugly Netflix ones, and make that my entire argument, but it would be ignoring the fact that you can use these new cameras and still light a scene properly. I previously already talked about this a little bit at the end of my Dexter Original Sin video, but I want to go a little bit more in depth here because I genuinely feel passionate about the show's downfall when it comes to purely how it looks. That being said, going forward, I am not going to be talking about plot details or character arcs or literally anything having to do with the actual show itself, other than its visuals, unless those visuals pertain to a specific storyline, in which I will definitely have to give you guys some context about what's going on in the scene. So, for example, if I bring up that a certain lighting choice helps us as an audience understand character motivations, emotions, or the general mood of the scene, I will obviously have to get into spoiler territory and talk about what is actually happening in the scene. But this video is not meant to be a recap of the show or anything like that, so yeah, don't expect that from this video. I do have the first 2 seasons of my recap series for the show out already, so if you would like to go watch those, then I have a playlist of them down below in the description. From the very first scene of the original show, which I've praised a few times on this channel, the show set a precedent for gorgeous, high contrast, dynamic lighting. What does this mean exactly? Well, take a look at these 2 scenes. Which of the 2 has the lightest values and the darkest values represented all at once? AKA, which of these has the highest contrast? Most people would agree the top scene, due to the fact that under similar lighting conditions, the top one stands out quite a bit more. The top scene is from the first season of the show, and the other is from the last season of the show. This demonstrates that across the course of the first 8 seasons, the show's lighting had begun looking a tad flat. But why did this happen, and also when did this happen? Now, I could be wrong because I was not in the room when all of these shows were physically shot, but I am at least 90% sure that the lighting falls on the shoulders of the DP, aka the director of photography. The first 6 seasons of the show were all shot by Romeo Tyrone, who clearly had a consistent vision throughout his tenure, creating the best visuals the show had to offer. Let it be known that the cameras used in the first 4 seasons would later be replaced with newer models for seasons 5 and 6, leading to a slight change in contrast under Tyrone, but mostly the show stayed consistent throughout his time working on it. Once new cinematographer Jeffrey Jur came in to replace Tyrone, the final 2 seasons had flatter colors, lighting, and cinematography. Just take a look at these 2 scenes, one of which is from season 2 and the other is from season 8. I purposefully picked these 2 scenes because of the similar lighting and composition. Granted, the top one sees Dexter inside Lila's apartment and the bottom one sees him outside at nighttime. There's still light surrounding him in the bottom image and a light in front of him to his left. In the top scene, Dexter's face is clearly defined by these shadows and highlights on his face. On the bottom, the lighting is flatter and uncontrasted. I know I said I wasn't going to be talking about camera quality in this video because that's just a whole other can of worms, but also note how much clearer the camera is on top compared to how muddy the image is on the bottom. And this is far from the last example of this. Take a look at these 2 Dexter and Deb scenes from episode 12 of Season 2 and Episode 11 from Season 8. Both of these scenes take place in Dexter's apartment in the exact same room and should have the exact same lighting conditions as both were filmed during night. And yet, the scene from Season 8 is significantly darker and muddier looking. Sometimes when I rewatch the show, I think I'm making up the fact that there's just a huge difference in lighting, but seeing the two scenes side by side really affirms my suspicions that the lighting got worse over time. In case I haven't convinced you, here's more examples from each season to get you guys on board with my theory that the change occurred exactly when Jeffrey Jur took over. I specifically chose scenes that had low light conditions, so mostly nighttime shots, indoor shots, that kind of thing. And as you can see, this basically proves my theory that the last two seasons were not lit as well as the previous 6. Just to prove my point further and to kind of cover my bases in case you guys think I'm cherry picking here, every single scene on screen comes from a different episode across the last 2 seasons, and most of them are indeed overexposed and flat. So now that I've convinced you that a change occurred, let's move on to possibly the worst season of the show lighting-wise. 8 years after the original show ended with a whimper in 2013, an all-new reboot of the series came to TV in 2021. This new show, subtitled New Blood, traded the setting from the warm, sunny, bright beaches of Miami to the cold, desolate forests of upstate New York. While I don't mind this change in theory, in execution, the entire visual language of the show completely changed due to this switch-up. Understandably so, the creative minds behind the original did not return for New Blood, as 8 years is quite a long time, and they were probably busy with other projects. The new cinematographer seemed to favor very dark gray looking lighting choices to fit the mood of the equally depressing setting chosen for the reboot. And yeah, this change sorta does make sense in theory, like I said. But if you want something to look gritty and edgy, you can also just light the scene properly and achieve even better results than that. Just look at the first season. It's never gray or underexposed looking. New Blood had its reasons for changing up the visuals, I will give it that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it particularly. Again, I know I said I wouldn't be getting into camera quality, but why does the camera used in 2006 look 10 times cleaner and clearer than the camera from the 2020s? It just completely boggles my mind, because I'm pretty sure New Blood probably had a bigger budget than the original show. The lighting issues that specifically plagued New Blood would also hit Original Sin, although I will say to a lesser degree. I won't go so much into Original Sin in this video, as I already made clear my stance on its visuals in my review for that season, but I thought I'd just mention it just to cover my bases. This brings me to the exact reason why I've made this video: Dexter Resurrection. I can somewhat excuse New Blood's lighting to a degree based on the setting and for character reasons, like how Dexter is in a much darker place than he was in the original show, so therefore, the lighting should probably be on the bleaker side. I cannot do the same for Resurrection, which is set in New York City. As of this writing, only 3 episodes have been released so far, so I'm not exactly sure if I can make such broad statements about its visuals yet, but it's safe to assume that the rest of this season will probably suffer from the same issues. And the issues here are kinda glaring, like I said. It's not as bad as New Blood, but they're pretty much the same problems, just to a lesser degree. A lack of contrast between the lights and darks, causing a muddy sludge of grayish beige, desaturated colors, and uninteresting composition. I'm not sure if lighting is just not taught in film school anymore, or if cameras are worse now, probably a combination of both. But to me, most shows look exactly like this, and I just don't understand. Let's compare the difference between where we started to where we are now. The difference is honestly hilarious if you ask me. I know this all comes down to personal preference, but I'll never be able to comprehend how this looks better to some people than this. Along with the lighting becoming flat and dark as the seasons went on, came more and more desaturated colors. In the first few seasons, many scenes would be lit with colorful lighting to convey the mood of the scene. For example, the first shot of the series sees Dexter's silhouette lit from the back with a red light, giving off the appearance that he's glowing with the need to kill something. We'd go on to see this many times throughout the show, and each time it was used to specifically convey that Dexter is in kill mode. In the 5th episode of season 2, titled The Dark Defender, Dexter and Lila are lit with this green light. It adds so much to the mood of the scene. Just putting on my little color theory hat here, Green is typically associated with danger or jealousy. While jealousy doesn't really come up in this scene, one could interpret Lila being painted in this green light as a big red or green flag regarding her intentions to steal Dexter away from Rita.
She wants me to leave Rita and the kids.
Could be right.
The green light corresponds to Lila's jealousy of Rita's relationship with Dexter. Other than that, it also signifies the danger in Dexter confronting the man who killed his mother, which is what he and Lila are on their way to do. Elsewhere throughout the show, Rita is often depicted in softer pastels like light yellow, pink, and red, and warm oranges to signify how Dexter feels about her. Everything that she wears is homey, it's light, it's sweet, it's innocent. It's meant to represent how Rita is Dexter's guiding light in life. Without her being the light at the end of the tunnel for him, well, we see how that turned out in season 5. You don't really see this same dedication to characterizing each character by their wardrobe in later seasons either. And it's just such a shame because you can convey so much based on a character's purpose in the story or their character traits themselves by what the character is actually wearing. And it's a real lost art if you ask me. As the original show went on, the show's use of color never fully went away. However, there was a noticeable shift away from colorful lighting. So season 1 is just as colorful as season 8. However, in the latter, most scenes are lit with white or yellowish studio lights rather than using, a green light or a red light or a blue light, if you get what I'm saying. New Blood, however, made the creative decision to strip almost every single scene of all of its colors, and if that wasn't bad enough, the lighting is shit too, as I mentioned before, leading to not only a loss of contrast, but a loss of vibrant colors. So to be clear, we're shifting gears from talking about the lighting to the color grading because Dexter New Blood has very little, if any, colorful lighting. The color grading for the reboot is very sparse, as most of the time it looks like they forgot to throw a LUT on the raw footage. And when there is a color every once in a while, it's likely a light blue, or gray, or brown. Obviously, these aren't the only colors that appear. New Blood also has a few colorful sets and costumes, but most of them occur during flashbacks to another time in Dexter's life, proving that this bland lighting and color grading is a choice that they made. If they went through the trouble to color match these flashbacks to the original show, but neglected the rest of New Blood, it tells me that this was their plan all along. There is a purpose, and that is to make each scene feel dark and chilly. And like I said, I can admit that that's definitely a choice that they are making, but I don't have to like it. Resurrection also favors desaturated colors, and I said before they executed a lot better than they did in New Blood, but there's still so much gray and beige. It just hurts me, okay? Maybe the rest of the season will lighten up, but I really don't think so. To be completely honest, I debated not adding this into the video because my main issues with the sequel shows are its color grading and lighting choices. However, I also need to get the cinematography-sized elephant out of the way before I sign off. New Blood, Original Sin, and Resurrection look exorbitantly worse than the original show, which just had such an organic and fun atmosphere. Let's just be honest here. I'm talking about the long takes, the swooping camera tracking, and the slow motion shots, which, at least in the first 4 seasons, were all shot on film cameras. None of the new shows have anything as distinct or fun going on when compared to the previous show. The main thing that bugged me a lot about the camera itself in these shows is that it literally does not move most of the time. The original show offered fairly fluid camera movements, particularly in the bullpen and when Dexter is on the hunt, to convey a sense of action. This intentional move to make the camera feel like a walking character itself helped separate it from more emotional, heavy-hitting scenes where the camera wouldn't move. Getting rid of panning crane shots, handheld, and action-driven cinematography in the spin-offs made the show feel even more bland and slower paced than the original, which is disappointing. This is all just a preference thing. Obviously, one of these styles is not inherently better than the other, but any time someone betrays what an original piece of media did creatively, whether it be with the visuals, the pacing, the character dynamics, or just the overall theme and plot structure, they are directly responsible for an inconsistent vision. And that, my friends, is my biggest pet peeve with movies and television in the modern era. Nothing feels consistent anymore. Like, if we're gonna milk things dry to the bone, can we at least keep a consistent visual style and not randomly change things up like the color and lighting every few years? Obviously, like I said, each situation is different, and some things might need to be changed for story reasons or character reasons, and that's fine. New Blood's justification is there. I don't have anything against the fact that it did change. However, it's the lighting in particular that just frustrates the fuck out of me in that season. Go ahead, make it almost gray. Leave some blues in there every once in a brown every once in a while, you know? Leave some of the color in. But where did the good lighting go? Like, I think it's raw footage. Like, I genuinely think that they just left the raw footage in there because, oh dear lord, it's bad. It's really bad. I'm gonna move on now because I think I ranted a little too long. So what exactly have we learned? Dynamic lighting and color grading are absolutely what? Essential. Yeah, they are essential to conveying the visual style of a given television show. Flat lighting and desaturated colors, while a choice in itself, commonly fail to convey anything other than looking really boring and ugly, at least in my opinion. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this short rant. I have a bunch of other small videos coming out that are similar to this one in size, so if you'd like to stick around, please hit that subscribe button. I also have the rest of my Dexter series coming out at some point at the end of this year, maybe? Who knows? I'm also working on my Once Upon a Time series, so there's just a lot going on. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like the video, comment down below, and tell me if you guys noticed this trend in recent television shows, particularly in Dexter. With that being said, I don't think I have anything else to say on the matter. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!